So we will have the opportunity to listen to the minister right away because he has to leave soon, and then we will listen to the institutional agents. Thank you, Minister, for being with us. Thank you very much for the invitation. Deeply sorry, but at 10:30 we have a discussion at the Parliament for Elinikon project, an investment supported by the government. So in the next few months we will have the works starting. I would like to thank Ethos Events for inviting me to speak to this conference, this two-day conference, hybrid one, which will touch upon NPLs. It is true, ladies and gentlemen, that managing this problem is of paramount importance for the economy. This becomes more important because of the pressure of the real economy, because of the pandemic and the measures taken. Something that, of course, is true for the whole of Europe, but in Greece the problems are even more important. So we need to have an integrated approach, concise, in order to deal with this issue. Towards this direction, we move in the Ministry of Finance, Deputy Minister, Minister, and Deputy Minister, and we try to seriously solve this problem. I will try to be more precise. First question, at which level was the NPL when we started, we came into office in March 2016, we had NPLs of 107 billion euros. When the whole of Europe was moving forward, taking advantage of the positive financial environment, showing positive results in decreasing NPLs 3 to 4%. Back then, our country was a negative exception. Truly, nevertheless, later on, the NPLs shrank to 75 billion in June 2019, but nevertheless, the index of NPLs was at the summer 2019 above the level of 2014. This was true. The second question, at what level are we today regarding NPLs? It is true that since June 2019, we have achieved a shrinking of the NPLs, and more precisely, the total of NP exposures is 47 billion euros in December 2020, decreased thus by 30% within the year. It is a success of the Greek economy recognized globally. On the other hand, nevertheless, to be frank, private debt remains extremely high. It is transferred from the portfolios of banks to agencies outside the banking system. The third question, what did the government do in order to deal with this problem? Is it that by chance the NPLs decreased by 47 billion euros? No. We implement successfully the Hercules project, a systemic solution voted by the Parliament at the end of 2019 and has led to positive results. We have already included in this solution all systemic banks, attracting international investors with a a total of securitizations of 31.36 billion euros. We introduced a new legal framework for a second chance for households and businesses. This framework replaces a scarce legislation which in the past years did not manage to solve the problem. Additionally, it gives the opportunity to restructure loans towards the banks and taking into consideration the vulnerable citizens who will be supported by the state, and at the same time make sure that we won't have strategic bad payers in this scheme. We have the bridge scheme introduced, supporting citizens thus that are tested by the pandemic financially, that is. We reinforce the culture of payment and for the first time we award those who are consistent with their loans. The fourth subsidy has been fulfilled by the end of April. This very moment, we have subsidized 102,500 loans and 72,000 beneficiaries. So the total amount is 74 million euros. We reinforce the liquidity of businesses, especially SMEs, indicatively with the implementation of the 6 forced cycles of repayable advance. We have already directed 7.2 billion euros in the real economy in more than 500,000 businesses, mainly SMEs. Via the PIH2 and the guarantee fund, we have given loans of 7.3 billion euros in 31,200 businesses. And I will repeat myself that the banking system should reinforce and assist further SMEs. Fourth question. What actions have been undertaken by the banking system in order to avoid NPLs? According to official data, and Mrs. Panagaki can confirm that since mid-March 2020, by January 2021, since the beginning of the pandemic until now, suspension of loan installments was awarded to 406,000 loans amounting to 28.4 billion euros. And 415,000 housing loans have been regulated successfully between banks and debt managing companies and debtors since June 2019 until January 2021. Of course, that is not an overall positive picture, because some of these loans become NPLs, but nevertheless, we are satisfied with the whole process. And fifth question, what the government is going to do soon in order to assist the debtors or the borrowers. We support in all fora that the support measures of the European economy should continue, because if we stop them right now, we might delay recovery, leading to increase of bankruptcies, increase of NPLs, and increase of unemployment. And we have agreed on that at the European level. At the same time, we undertake initiatives, distinctive ones, in Greece. First, expansion of Iraklis and extension of Iraklis project. Mr. Zavos, the deputy minister, submitted the request of the Greek government to extend the Hercules project. This is important for us because, as we see from the programming, without taking into consideration possible consequences of the pandemic, by the end of 2022, all systemic banks can have achieved a single digit number, by some of them even in 2021. Two of the four systemic banks announced in lately more aggressive strategies of decreasing NPLs by including portfolios within Heracles project. To be more precise, keep in mind the following. Within 2.5 years in office, we will have achieved one of the biggest systemic decreases of the NPL index in global literature. Second initiative, gradual implementation of second opportunity and loan regulation. The government with the banks and the debt managing companies, EFCA, etc., has introduced working groups who work on a daily basis to gradually implement the new holistic legislative initiative. We have already introduced part of the legislation and the first ministerial decision have been issued that deal with the process of MICA. Deeply sorry. With this process, the companies and natural entities that are businessmen have the opportunity taking steps to regulate their debts and continue their businesses. At the same time, we try to have an integrated ICT program with platforms which will be ready June 1st, when the law will be implemented regarding SMEs and households. Third, the new bridge project for SMEs that will subsidize business loans for 8 months. And we will have small, very small and privately owned businesses, including freelancers that have suffered because of the pandemic and have some eligibility criteria that were mentioned last week. As in the bridge project, in this one, we award all these borrowers by subsidizing 90% of the installments, and all those who have NPLs, we subsidize their loan by 80%. That subsidy will cover the capital and the rates, and the process will be simple and electronic without any paperwork. Fourth, increase of banking finance by introducing in the economy funds from Next Generation EU. We will about to be allocated 32 billion euros, and we will invest that in businesses that promote the characteristics of the Greek economy. In conclusion, the government wants the banks to be a lever of recovery and activation of the productive forces of this country. Thank you very much. Thank you, Minister. 2 questions. And I speak on behalf of the majority of borrowers and the administrators, Gefira 2 and Hercules 2. Can you give us a timetable on how these 2 schemes will move forward? Gefira 2, we were ready to submit the legislation of the government. I think that everything is available since last week. The characteristics of the borrowers, the activation will be in April and May. So, depending on whether the loan is an NPL or not, to have the subsidy provided for 80 and 90% respectively. Within the next few weeks, we will have this legislation put forward. Is there a secret a characteristic, a turnover, a decrease in the turnover of the company as a criterion? There are specific characteristics the borrower should have, and depending on the assets of the company, on whether the company is a medium one, a small one, the number of employees. There are 4 different categories, and data I can read. Well, you can find everything in our site. Regarding Hercules 2. Mr. Zavos is among your speakers. Well, hopefully he will inform in detail the interested parties. As I've said already, we have submitted a request of the government to extend Hercules 2, and the total of the banking system has welcomed that. The point is to run faster, to have the legislation soon, so as to have an additional tool within the banking system to be able to decrease NPLs faster within 2021. Of course, not taking into consideration, but at the same time taking initiatives on the volume of the new NPLs because of the pandemic. Within Europe, we will have an increase of NPLs. Nevertheless, we try with our policies to assist households and businesses in order to avoid huge increase of NPLs, since we do have already an increased percentage of NPLs, and I am optimistic that we will manage. When are we gonna get the money? Well, Tuesday we will have the voting in the parliament. There are some processes that we need to follow right away, and then we will have you will get the money. At the same time, we will start the early project of Ellinikon, so the citizens will be able to see what the future will be. So, you will have 2 minutes to go to the parliament. Thank you very much.
Let us see now whether the European Central Bank agrees with what the Minister of Finance